Hello friends, welcome to Tech Greens. So in the continuation to our series on Hadoop tutorial, today we'll look in detail what is read and write operations in the Hadoop HDFS world. So in this video, we'll discuss what exactly happens when you try to read any file which is stored in the HDFS, or you try to what happens exactly when you try to create a new file or try to write a new file in the HDFS world. So guys, let's start. So Hadoop follows write once, read many model. So the whole idea of distributed big data storage provided by HDFS is write once and read many times. What it means is that all the files which are already stored in the HDFS cannot be edited. However, we can always append into the existing file by reopening the files. So the whole idea here is whenever you are trying to get data ingested, it will always be stored as new files. If in case they needs to be appended to the existing ones, that can be done, but modifications or the files which are already stored, those cannot be edited. When we try to do any kind of read or write operation, the client first interacts with the name node. So name node is the master of the cluster. When we say client could be your CLI when you're trying to say read some file in the HDFS through Hadoop FS commands, or maybe a Java program using which you are trying to read or write a file into the HDFS. So first thing which client will do is it will interact with the name node. Name node will provide the required privileges and other metadata information about the data nodes. So client can easily read and write the block information into or from the respective data nodes. Now let's try to see in detail how exactly this interaction between the name node, which is the master node, and the slave nodes happens during the data read operation. So to read a file into the in the HDFS, client needs to interact with the name node, and once name node has um authenticated the access and provided the required privileges and metadata information, then client will interact with the informed data nodes directly without keeping name node in between. So the listening between the name node and the data node only happens via client, where client will access all the required metadata information about the data nodes from name node, and then using that information, client directly connects with the with with those data nodes to read a particular file. So let's try to understand the entire process of how a particular read is performed in the HDFS with this picture. So here you have a HDFS client, say some CLI you're trying to use. Then when you'll fire any query to read a file, first thing is it will open a distributed file system. So this file system is more or less same as your input output uh, file system provided in the Java world, except for the fact it is distributed, as the entire data storage in the Hadoop HDFS world is in the distributed way. And this distributed file system will get in touch with the name node to get the block information to read that particular file. Once that information is accessed, then the client tries to read the data residing on that particular name on that particular data node through the FS data input stream. So it will open one input stream. That input stream would have would establish a connection with the name node, which is provided by the I'm sorry, with the date node, which is provided by the name node here, and then it will hook on to that particular data node for specific blocks of that file which is trying to read. So in a nutshell, this is how at a very high level the read operation is performed. Now let's look in detail what exactly happened in each of these 5 steps to read a file in the Hadoop world. So first thing is client opens the file to read by calling open on the file system objects. So the way it is programmed is you have an API is performed in the form of distributed file system, and the client will call an open method explicitly or implicitly to read a particular file. That open method also takes the path of that file, source file which you are trying to read. And in the Hdfs world, the entire uh, file system is provided in the distributed file system API. This distributed file system in step 2 here, if you see, calls the name node using RPC to determine the location of the blocks. So now it has to read, suppose one file, say a.txt. Regarding that file, the distributed file system will get the information from name node that where all the different pieces or blocks of this file are stored on the different data nodes. Uh, and for each block, the name node returns the address of the data nodes where those blocks are residing, and also along with the primary data node, those data nodes are also written in the list where we have the replicas of that block. And then these data nodes are sorted based on their proximity to the client. So it will try to find out which data node is closest to the client, and client will start reading from that particular data node. Now in the step 3, which is here, now FS data input stream. It's a data input stream which is used by the client to read from the data node. And this input stream actually stores the list of data node addresses which was given by name node, and then connects to the data node which is closest, where the which is closest to the client, right? Based on whatever the cluster topology in terms of whichever nodes is closest uh, from the network context, that that is the node which would be where this distributed input stream will start reading the data. Now data is a stream. If you see the 4th step, this is the 4th step. In the 4th step, data is streamed from the data node back to the uh, client via stream input stream. So here the results client can call the read method repeatedly on the stream. So this stream which is open now, connecting the data node and the client. Now the client can repeatedly call read method on this, and when the block ends, then data input stream will close the connection once all the blocks are read. In the 5th step, you see what happens. It's tried to read from another data node. If you see, there are 2 arrows going on and both are performing read. This situation happens, suppose the data node from which input stream is trying to read is not available, is down, or that particular machine is not able to connect. Then in that case, uh, input stream has already stored the entire list of data nodes given by name node. So now it will try to connect the second data node, which is next closest to the first one, because the first one is down now. So it will try to connect with the next closest data node, and at the same time it will also make sure that it doesn't do any kind of retries again on the failed data node. So once the data node is failed, there would not be any retries from the stream reader to read it. So there would be no further read attempts on that particular failed data node. At the same time, once the blocks are returned from data node back to the input stream reader or to the client, then the stream also verifies the checksum to identify or to verify the blocks, and if in case there is any kind of mismatch, it reads from the next data node, not from that particular data node. So if it finds that the blocks coming from a particular data node where it is connected right now are for them checksum is not getting verified, there is a mismatch, then it will try to connect to the next data node and also reports this information back to the name node. So it will inform name node that a particular data node is not responding. That is also done by the input stream, DF input stream. So guys, that's it in this particular video about read operation in the Hadoop world. I will quickly prefer to reiterate that's a 5-step process. Whenever any client raise a command to read a particular file, distributed file system APIs instance is created, which makes an RPC call to the name node and get the information for that particular file, that the pieces for this file are stored on which all data nodes. Then this data node information or list or address information is kept with the FS data input stream, which makes a connection with the closest data node from the list and try to apply the read operation on top of that. And the client can apply a repeated read operation on the stream which is now connected, and data can be read. Once all the blocks are read from the underlying data nodes, the data stream input stream will close the connection. And if in case the data node from which is trying to read a particular file that is down, then it will connect to the next closest node and try to read the blocks from that particular node. So guys, that's how read operations happen in the Hadoop HDFS world. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. In the next video, we'll look at the nitty-gritties and details of the Hadoop write operations. Bye bye.